my new goal, I want to be nominated for a Sobe of some sort.
It's the new goal. Well, it's the trophy. It's a golden bee. I've got this in my mind, this golden bee statue that I give out, and people get to celebrate recovery without the buzz. I've got it all. It's in my head. It's a glorious event in my head.
I have a new vision for my next goal that I
Okay.
want.
Yeah.
I want to.
Because now that you've achieved Funko status, anything
Yes.
is possible. Anything
I need
is
to get
possible.
this guy a little friend. Yeah.
Yes, for sure. Well, Ari, I'm so glad that you could join Tamara and I today on this conversation. And it was just kind of magical when an email from your manager slid into my inbox a couple weeks ago and put you on my radar. So for the folks that are listening, can you tell people a little bit about who you are, where you come from, and why you're here?
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you so much for having me. It was like meeting you and tomorrow. It was one of those like signs that I feel like I'm on the right path. You know what I mean? And it felt really good. Like I'm with my people, and something is guiding this thing that makes sense. And that's always like very affirming. So thank you so much for inviting me and let me be a part of this.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I am an actor and a musician. I am a sober dad and husband. I live in Los Angeles. I've kind of always been in California, aside from like a little 4-year stint I did on the East Coast. So I'm kind of a California guy. And my story, so what I am now is I go by Avatari, and that's kind of my artist name. I'm an alt rock singer, songwriter. I make music videos, I act in them, and that's kind of the dream that I caught in sobriety. And but to kind of go back before then, so growing up, I grew up in San Francisco, and I was very focused on sports and academics and succeeding. And I had this way of just like, I had a goal and I could do it. And I was really, really focused, as a lot of us, I think, in recovery can be, if we know exactly what we want and we get kind of tunnel vision. And sometimes that can really work for you, I think. And
yeah,
really
it's a superpower for sure.
Yeah, it can be a superpower that can be create extraordinary momentum and results. And for me, it did. I knew exactly what I wanted. It was like, I want to get straight A's. I want to win the, high school city football championship. Boom, boom, did it. I won a black belt in karate. I won trophies, and so I for the first chunk of my life, and really before drugs and alcohol came into my life, I knew how to do the things that I wanted, and it worked out. Then what happened is I got into Harvard, and that was like kind of the main goal. And I got there, started playing football. But what I realized very quickly is I had no plan after that. And what I did encounter was, and I really found it like senior year of high school when I turned 18, was partying. And so things completely changed, and my world flipped upside down. And in some ways they opened up, and in other ways I became really disenchanted with like what had driven me before. I just like the same things did not drive me. And instead it was like, oh, I can, drink, I can party. And also girls are a part of that for me. And my story is like, it was like all one thing at once.
Oh, girls.
Girls.
Oh, girls.
I discovered them.
Girls.
It's like they'd been there the whole time, but they look different. And anyway, I did manage to graduate in spite of myself. And then the one thing I knew is I want to go to Hollywood, because there was something that was pulling me to entertainment and creativity. And that had been in me my whole life. Like, even though I was focused on school and sports, anytime there was a chance to perform, like I did Michael Jackson Thriller in like a 6th grade talent show, and I sang Little Richard Tutti Frutti in another one. Like I loved getting on stage. And so that was
Is there photo evidence of this? Like,
Or
is
video?
there?
There might be.
I
There might
mean,
be.
I'm just saying that I think that would really enhance the article that was going to go along with this little interview.
Oh my
And,
gosh.
you know, we're very visual at the Sober Curator. We
noticed.
really are very visual people. So I just feel like you might need to dig into the archives, Ari.
Hey, you know what? My mom keeps everything. So
See?
I
Moms.
know if you go to my house, there's pictures everywhere of my whole past that are very embarrassing. So I'm sure those can be found.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah, if we look hard enough.
I'm making a note.
Yes. So little Ari as Little Richard or Michael Jackson. So that was in me, and then when it came to that part of my life where I was looking for what I'm going to do next, I'd majored in economics, but I really didn't have any long-term interest in doing that. And so then I moved to Los Angeles, and that's a whole thing, right? That's Los Angeles is a whole place. It's an amazing place full of opportunity, full of really creative people. And if you don't know who you are and know what you're doing, you can crash and burn really quickly. I mean, you know, that can be anywhere, of course. Certainly like big cities, probably, New York, Chicago, wherever. But there's something a little specific about Los Angeles because it tends to attract people that have really big dreams, that want things really, really badly. And that can be beautiful. But also if you're not grounded in who you are, it can rip you apart really quickly. And so that's what happened for me. And it happened over about 4 years. And I crashed and burned. And fortunately for me, and I was 26, I discovered sobriety and I found a community, and my whole life changed. And music was a big part of that, because the thing that really saved me was, I remember there were nights alone in my studio apartment where it was just me and my guitar, and I just picked it up. And it was like part of my, higher power, or my relationship to God or the universe, or, what have you. And I picked it up, and it was the thing that I did instead of running out and, getting high or getting drunk or finding some trouble to get into. And it saved me. And so it started off just in my little studio apartment, writing these songs. And I don't know if they were good or bad. I do know that they were coming right out of my soul. And then it came time eventually, a few friends heard them, and they're like, in retrospect, I think, I very kind of tentatively shared with like a couple of really close friends because I was terrified. And I kind of remember their expressions were really hard to read. Like, I can't tell if they think it's good or bad. And I've asked a few of them since, and they're like, I could tell there was something there, meaning it probably wasn't great, but that it was coming from a really pure place. You know what I mean? And so then it came time to like play open mics, and I did that. And that was also terrifying. It was just like, get up in front of a stage full of, in front of a bunch of people who don't know you, don't know anything about you, and just do it. And then anyway, it's been years, and it went from that to getting a band, to playing, to touring a bit, to playing festivals, to, starting the solo project Avatari, which is really, this is my passion right now. And Avatari, so it has the word avatar in it, and it has the word Ari, right? So it's like my avatar, and it's kind of like this guy, right? Who
there he is.
I had to introduce my Funko as gifted by Elise and Tamar. It's like, this is essentially my avatar, which is like your kind of, your higher power, right? So it's like, I feel like we each have one. And that's a big part of this is, for me to express my deepest self and to encourage other people to do the same. So that's the long and the short of it.
I love a happy ending that ends with a Funko in hand. I mean, so that's quite a journey. And you're also, you had some kids along the way on that journey.
Yeah, those guys. I had my own little Funkos. They both look very much like me, and they're each their own guy. But a couple of little boys, married to an amazing woman, and she's a light of my life. And family is a huge part of my story, both like my what do you call it? The family that I was given and, grew up with, very family oriented. It's like, it was all family music. And that's kind of the same thing that's happening now, and sobriety is the other huge chunk of it. And I almost don't differentiate all those things. They're like
Mm-hmm.
kind of all really, they all make up who I am, and they all connect inside my heart. And that's my whole reason.
Yeah, I totally get that. Do you find, a lot of artists, a lot of musicians will sometimes struggle to be able to get into their craft sober? It's that cliche saying of, well, I'm just more creative when I'm this, that, or that.
Yeah.
Did you find that to be true and have to power through it, or did you find that not to be true?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I would say depending on the phase of the craft, because for what I do, there's the musicianship. So like working on my guitar playing, my singing, there's the songwriting and creating on that front. And then there's the getting up on stage and performing. And they're all very related, but they're all very separate. Some people really focus on different parts of that. For me, I do all of those, and they're all super important to me. So if I just break it down that way, for the craft of guitar playing and singing and piano playing, sobriety and recovery, being in sober mind and spirit has only helped. I don't think there was anything about using that helped my voice. For songwriting, I would also say that having a path and being connected to something much deeper than myself has far surpassed the benefits of using drugs and alcohol to tap into some creative freedom. I think sometimes, when I was drinking or using, I felt like, oh, I feel so free writing these lyrics. But a lot of times when I would go back and read what I actually wrote, I'd be like, that's just a mess, or like, I don't know what I was thinking. So I
try again.
Yeah. So I would say that, honestly, I think that's the biggest area where I've completely transformed because of my sober path.
Yeah.
And then the one area that it was the biggest transition was getting up on stage and performing. Because
that makes sense.
It's like the kind of the liquid courage, right? Or whatever courage, that thing that that quiets the looking at yourself and the anxiety that happens from getting on stage, that I had to work, relentless and continue to have to work relentlessly on, getting up there and being free. So, and really that just looks like, changing the camera and where it's focused instead of on me and what people are thinking about me out to them. So I will say that part of the answer for that is exactly what, for me, the recovery has been about, which is getting more into others and serving. And, why am I here and why am I doing this? Is it to get something, or am I giving something? And so the answer has actually given me a lot more power and freedom in the long run, I think. And also there was always a piece of me before I got into recovery that was like doubted whether I was able to really do these things, or whether it was because of how I used drugs and alcohol. And so I always wanted to know, like, could I do this if it weren't for that? And that's a big part of my, my mission is like, I want to be able to do everything in a sober mind and sober body and spirit that I could do before.
So let's talk about that a little bit, because one of the things I like to really dig into as a person in long-term recovery, which I have just made a blanket statement in my mind that anything over 10 years feels long-term, because like a decade is a long time to do the same, to not do something every day, right? It's a long time. And so what has your path felt like? For me personally, like the ebbs and the flows of recovery, because like life still gets super lifey, right? Like your problems just get classier. And so
hopefully,
so like what has that journey been like for you? The ups and the downs of it?
Oh boy, that's a great question. And I like how you started, like, anything over 10 years being long-term. And I mean, it's funny because when I first got started on this path, it was like anything over a week felt like long term, and
100%.
then every little stepping stone, 30 days, a year, and I'd look around and be like, oh, you have a year, you have 2 years, to people that were in my community. And so the one thing that I would also see is being around, having a community and being around people that had 10, 20, sometimes 30 years. And when they would talk about their issues, they would seem so far off, like that.
Mhm.
That will never be my issue. And so it was hard to connect to it and relate to it. So now kind of being in that place, because life gets normally, I think for a lot of people, because we all do have superpowers, right? And a lot of times, being out there or, drinking and using or whatever your affliction is a lot about running from those very things. So for me, my personal experience and what I see for people is when you start to confront yourself and your demons and get into a sober lifestyle, you start to embrace those superpowers. Like, I mean, that's that's like what's happening right here on this podcast, on this interview. You're just like you're giving your superpowers, and I think that's what we do. And so then your life gets bigger because usually you're thriving, and then comes responsibility. Like your problems change. It's like, and for me, so I always knew that I wanted to find a life partner and that I wanted to have kids. But also that was the idea of that was so terrifying. And now I'm getting to see why. I'm also getting to see why I wanted it so bad, because it's absolutely beautiful. And it's like someone asked me, what is it like to have kids? And it's one of those things like love that's really hard to describe in words. But the best way for me is like, I feel like I've grown another heart, like I had this heart and it felt like that was enough to have to deal with on a daily basis. But now I've grown 1, 2, maybe 3 more hearts, you count my wife. And on some level, I'm very responsible for all of these people and relationships. And on another level, they're each their own person. And so I'm only responsible to agree, and like to a degree, and managing that is a whole nother thing. Like what can I control or what can I control? Mm-hmm. So that's the area where I think, that the whole like keep it simple is one of my favorite things. Is, if I can keep it simple, is just showing up every day and doing my very best. Flashback, there's a part of me that just always wants to win the gold trophy. And if I don't, it's like a total failure. And I always have to work on that too, because that's not a great recipe for happiness in life, depending on what the goal. Yeah.
That's what we do, right? We're either the shit or the complete shit. And it's like, what we have to acknowledge is that's the same coin. It's just different sides of it, right? Yeah. So, and we swing in between those places. At least I do. At least I do.
Oh, no, I'm with you. And I love that. The shit or complete shit, it's like, and that's a big piece of my story that I continue to get clarity on. That's one of the beautiful things about, I guess, recovery and growing up and, aging. We were talking about wisdom earlier, just getting different perspective on life, on, myself and my past. And, a big part is getting more clarity on that kind of that transition that I had from, up to about 18, going into my alcoholism and then going from there into sobriety. And, it was like, that felt like a real fall from grace for me, where I thought I had it all figured out. And then it was like, oh, I have nothing figured out. And then it was like, oh, there's a lot of stuff to to know and to, be exposed to in life and to get to experience. And so I guess it's more about living in the middle now, living in the gray area. And even though there's like that piece of me that just really wants to, I guess it's like, I want the high, of
course.
We all do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's That's where the fun's at. I want the
You know?
highs, I want the lows.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally hear that. And I'm so glad I only have to do it one day at a time. Like because I just make some mistakes all over the place. But what I've heard you say is that you found your purpose in your people, your wife, your kids, and that the secret sauce is being of service to others. Like that's
Mm.
the underlying message that I hear you saying who you are, right? And I also love that you are a content creator because I also, Tamara and I both, we love creating content at the Sober Curator. We've got almost 50 people that love creating content of all different types of content, whether it's singing, whether it's talking, whether it's writing, whether it's acting. And so it's there, there's something about being a sober creative that feels good. And for a long time, I couldn't say I was a creative. I couldn't say I was an artist. I couldn't say I was a writer because I thought only special people got to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And then it kept being explained to me, no, you are if you say you are, Elise, and you are what you do. And I'm like, oh, right.
Yeah, totally.
And
Oh,
I think Ari, you said that earlier, right? When you had this desire to do more. And I think it's so common in people who like us who are in recovery, who get sober, to really like once we find our purpose, we start to see the magic happen. We start to see these things that we're like, wow, I never knew I was capable of that, right? Because some of us keep tied into that previous life. And it's like, no, you're a go-getter, right? If you worked half as hard on your sobriety as you did when you were drinking, I mean, just imagine the life you can create. And, it's just like, I want to ask quickly about stigma, because I love what you're doing with your music. Because I have to admit, when I was younger, I was musically inclined. I never carried on with it. But I was like, I want to be a rock star, right? And I've read far too many biographies, probably. So I have this clouded view on, what it's like for everyone. Like, if you're a rock star, you must go party and drink and do all this stuff. Like, you have this glamorous lifestyle. But for you, your sobriety has actually inspired your music. And I think that is a superpower. And coming back to stigma is that you have a voice you're putting out there. And music to me is such a powerful way to consume messages, right? If I want to be happy, I turn on a happy song with some happy words. If I want to cry, I do something that has some sad words. So for you, when you're creating your music and your sobriety is inspiring you, like, I think we talked about when we first met that you didn't talk about your sobriety at first, and now you do. And I think there's a lot of sober musicians that are starting to be a little bit more open about it so we can reduce that stigma.
Yeah, that's a great question, great topic. And I think, like you said, that things are changing, and I love it. A lot of my favorite artists and people that I'm seeing just get more transparent about what they're writing about, and their lives and lifestyles. And I think for me, my first musical heroes were like the classic rock frontmen, like the Jim Morrison, Jimi Hendrix, Mick Jagger, still around, still rocking, which is amazing, and Kurt Cobain, and guys like David Bowie as well. And they're not all dead, but a good bunch of those guys that I just mentioned are dead and died like way before their time. And so what I think has shifted, or at least for me, is, I think what I like to do, and what you were talking about, Elise, is like finding your real voice, and how can I express these deepest thoughts and ideas and feelings. And so I think, a lot of us in sobriety and just in general, we're seeking like, what is the medium that I want to say, that can best create and say that thing. And nowadays it's so cool because there's so many ways to express. For me, music's right at the heart of it, because always, like, when I heard certain songs as a kid, it was like, oh my God, it just hit me right here. You know, I hit songs like 3.5 minutes long, and it tells a whole story in that time, and it can change your life in like 3.5 minutes. So I think part of that is like the immediacy of that is why I've always been attracted to music. But I've also always loved cinema and film. There's something about getting on that ride, like, you know, I don't know how many people are going to the movies anymore, but I remember going to the movies and sitting in the theater and the lights go down and you got your popcorn and you're just in a world for, you know, an hour and a half, 2 hours. So I love that too. When I was growing up, the one guy who would really like fuse those two mediums together was Michael Jackson. And so he had the music and then like the art of the music video. And it was more than just a music video, you know, with like Thriller and Beat It. And I think piece of me was like, that's what I want to do. You know, like I want to take all those elements and just fuse them together into these amazing experiences. And then I think the other component that has really started to evolve for me is like, what is it that I have to share that's the deepest thing? And so when I started writing those songs in my bedroom, you know, I was essentially writing about my transformation, my spiritual, you know, transformation and tapping into some sort of higher power. And so I was writing about it, but at that time I was writing in more general terms. And as I've kind of, I think, hopefully progressed as a songwriter and just become more and more honest, and I've written more specifically and just, you know, dug deeper and written more about exactly like what's going on with me. And I think that's also inspired me in the world of social media and content creation to share the stories of these things that I'm creating and writing. Because I think, you know, there is a mindset and belief that it's like, no, let the song speak for itself, or, you know, let the stories or the book speak for itself. But I've changed my mind around that, because I think what happens, and just as an example, like I started telling the stories of my songs at my shows, some of them before I played the song. And I was very averse to that before. It always felt like, no, just get to the music. That's all people care about. And I've changed my mind. I think, and what I've started to experience is I give people a bit of the story about the song, and it like pulls them into why it's important. I have a song that I released last March called Fighter. And it was about an experience that I had in elementary school, getting picked on and bullied and beat up. And what that led to for me was my Uncle Tommy grabbed me up from school one day and brought me to a place. And it was kind of mysterious. He didn't tell me where we were going. He's like, I'm going to take you somewhere. And where he took me to was a karate dojo. And he kind of gave me to them. And I studied there for the next 10 years, like every day. And I learned martial arts. I learned karate, and it was completely life-changing. And so I wrote this song called Fighter, all about how, you know, getting beat up on the playground led to me, you know, finding a way to fight my deeper demons, you know, and that's really what I got. I didn't just learn how to fight with my fists. I learned some sort of discipline. But anyway, I started to tell that story at my shows before I played the song, and it just pulled people in, and it brought them onto the roller coaster for the song. So I don't know what I'm saying, but I guess I'm saying like the combination of these mediums and being able to tell your story and create content that gives people context.
Yes.
So they can appreciate it more.
So tell me, when you went all Karate Kid, and you waxed on and you waxed off.
Karate Funko.
Have you watched the Karate Kid reboot series?
You know what? I haven't actually. It's been on my list for a while. So yeah, I'm not sure why I haven't, but I haven't watched it yet. That being said, I love the original Karate Kid, and I used to watch it before karate tournaments to get me fired up.
To get you fired up. That makes sense.
Or Bruce Lee Enter the Dragon. So
that makes sense.
On my list is the reboot with Cobra Kai. Yeah. maybe that'll be my next series that I check out.
When I was listening to your music, I immediately emailed Tamar and I was like, you've got to check out this song, Higher Power. That's the one. Check out Higher Power. And she was like, I don't see a song called Higher Power, Elise, but there's a song called Power. Might that be the same one? And I was like, I went back and I was like, because I was like, oh, she's wrong. And I went back and I was like, oh, no, I'm wrong. And but it's clearly because when I listened to that song, it evoked in me the feeling of my own higher power. And so that really came out in the messaging.
That was the goal. And the song, to be fair, it's called Power. So you weren't far. You just added the higher. And
I like to add a little extra wherever I go. Let's be clear.
I think that's what the song's about. So I think you just tapped into the true essence. But yeah, that's a great example of, I write about, most of what I write about is, in fact, I don't know if anything I write about is not some part of my spiritual path. And so that's exactly what that song's about. I released a song last year called High Like This. And that was the first time I wrote exactly specifically about my bottom and hitting rock bottom. And the cool thing about that was I got to make a music video for that one with a really good friend and creator, David Maurer, who directed it. And he's one of my Hollywood friends, and he's an editor and a director, and he's worked on a ton of stuff. He was on worked on The Masked Singer and Absentia on Amazon, but he's just a really, really creative guy. And this is the cool thing about having a community of people that you're tapped into that are like-minded. And so we brewed this idea, and really, really he brewed the idea, but it was we went back and forth, and he took the song and he came up with this wild idea that was kind of like Alice in Wonderland mixed with Clockwork Orange. And we made a video, and that was where I kind of got to do my dream of combining music and film and acting all into one experience. So anyway, that's High Like This.
Well, and where can people find you?
Well, I'm right here right now with you.
Well, that's true. That's true.
You can find me
on... The phone lines are waiting.
So you can find me on all the social places. I go on, so I'm Avatari, Avatari. On Instagram and TikTok, I'm at Avatari World. YouTube, you can just look up Avatari. That's one of my favorite channels is YouTube, because you can see all my full-length music videos. You can go to my website, which is avatariworld.com. And on that website, you can also join my mailing list, so I can keep you up to date with new releases and things like that. Yeah, I think those are the main places.
That is great. And I have another question. You were talking about going to the movies. I love going to the movies.
Okay.
I love any story, any opportunity to listen to a story. I'm pretty much in. If I'm not telling a story, I want to be listening to a story.
I'm the same.
And the last movie I went to was recent. I went to the new Deadpool and Wolverine. It's great. It was great. It was great. So good. Yep. 5 stars. Yeah. Or 5 Sobies. We'll give that one 5 Sobies.
5 Sobies.
5 Sobies.
Is that the maximum?
Yes. Well, we've started a new scoring system here at the Sober Curator for movies and TV show reviews, podcast reviews, and book reviews. And we're calling it the Sobies. And we're scoring things on a scale of 1 to 5 Sobies. And eventually we want to do a people's choice where people can vote on what their score they would give. And eventually I want to have, like the Webbies or the Emmys, but I want to have the Sobies.
Oh my God. I love it. Yeah. My new goal, I want to be nominated for a Sobie of some sort.
It's the new goal. Well, it's the trophy. It's a golden bee. I've got this in my mind, this golden bee statue that I give out, and people get to celebrate recovery without the buzz. I've got it all. It's in my head. It's a glorious event in my head. But
I have a new vision for my next goal that I want. I want
because now that you've achieved Funko status, anything is possible. Anything is possible.
This guy a little friend. Yeah.
Yes, for sure. So do you have, speaking of superheroes, and we've talked a lot about superpowers, like if you had to pick one superhero as who you are, who would it be?
Oh, good question. So the first guy that pops into my mind, actually, okay, I got two. I'm going to do two. One's
fair.
not really a superhero. He's a guy that's like a superhero. But the first one that popped into my head was Batman, The Dark Knight. I feel like I'm more Batman than Superman, because I think something about the going into the darkness to face your demons, and also Gotham City, that place, it's like very metaphoric, where it's like this dark metropolis and all these like really nasty villains, and I feel like that's what we do. We fight our demons, and that's how I'd like to see myself. The other guy was Bruce Lee. Just he's not really a superhero, but that was like my first kind of larger than life karate guy superhero.
Well, I just appreciate that you've given a lot of nods to people from the Pacific Northwest, because that is where Tamara and I hail, and just magical things are coming out of the Emerald City. They always have been, and they always will be.
It's a very fertile spot.
It is. It is.
Good minds, good, lot of creativity. Yeah, a lot of genius.
That's exactly right. Tamar, do you have any other questions for our friend here?
Well, we're big into pop culture. So
in case you hadn't noticed, in case you didn't
notice,
what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if you just open the site and it's pretty obvious, but for me, I have to hear things twice, sometimes three times before they set in. But, we were talking movies. Yeah. What are your two favorite movies that talk about sobriety, and why?
You know what? It's funny, on the little survey, I had trouble answering that. And I can't even remember what I said, but it got me thinking, because I'm such a movie guy and I'm in recovery. I was like, why did I have trouble, coming up with a good answer for that? That should be like my question. But I think I found an answer. And I don't know if these would typically be considered movies about recovery or, that sort of thing. But for me, they are. So one is One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and the other is Boogie Nights. And so
good one.
I think maybe for both of them, but like for Boogie Nights, you see all these characters that are looking for something and putting themselves in, these harm's way, and in kind of looking for love in all the wrong places. And I really identified with that. And also that was all about like seeking fame and, what did you say earlier, Elise, about, like the piece of shit that also couldn't, it's like piece of shit at the center of the universe kind of thing, where I'm either, I need ultimate affirmation because of how I feel about myself or don't feel about myself. So that's Boogie Nights. It's also just, brilliantly acted, and had the music in that movie and the way it's used is incredible.
Oh, and the styling, the costumes, like crushed it.
The styling, the acting, the costumes, it was like a total slice of that time and place. So I love that movie. It's very sad and depressing, but most of these types of movies are. And then One Flew Out of the Cuckoo's Nest, I think because Jack Nicholson in that, and it was always like, I think the reason he was committed was he was in some sort of alcohol related incident, right? And so that was to me an example of when I'm out there, there's going to be all these repercussions, and then I wind up in situations that I can't control, like being committed or worse. So, and then he got in there, and it was all this like fight with authority, and I feel like I can not so much identify with the fight with authority, but just negotiating my relationship to authority figures, if that makes sense. So yeah, those are my two.
So speaking of boogie nights, you have a new song. It's called
Good
Porn.
segue.
And
Good
I think
segue.
I think we need to play this.
Are we going to talk
Elise.
about porn now? We're going to talk about
We're
porn
going to talk
now?
about porn.
We're doing it. By the way, let me just specify for anyone that's searching this, it's spelled #RN.
Yeah, that's probably an important differentiator. Otherwise, people's Google searches could pull up all kinds of things.
Oh, yeah,
exactly.
just for your own Google sake.
Don't look it up at work.
Yeah. Do you want to tell us a little bit about the song before we play
I'd love
it?
to. Yeah, for sure. So this song came to me, and sometimes like I have to sit down and work really hard on a song, and sometimes an idea comes to me and I write it in 10 minutes, and it's exactly how it is when I record it. Like it word for word. And that's what happened with Porn. And then I was like, what is this song about? What did I just write a song about? Is it about porn? Is it about porn addiction? And I sat with it and played it for a couple people. And what I finally realized, for me, I think what it's about is social media addiction and relationship to social media and screens and validation and media in the world, like comparison and kind of voyeurism and, living other people's best lives and all that. So that's what the song is about. I made a really, I hope, fun music video that goes along with it. So if you get a chance, check that out too.
So would it be weird? I mean, is it possible to make a music video with your Funko? Is that something that could happen?
Oh,
Oh.
I don't think it's only possible. I think we now have to do it.
Yes.
It's incumbent upon us to make that happen.
I do admit that myself and several Sober Curators, we will travel with our Funkos. First of all, they're pocket size, right? They're pocket size. So, and it's fun to just take them around and just take pictures of or video wherever we go.
Do you need an extra plane ticket for a Funko?
Might. Yeah, I might. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No.
Okay. No. What was that movie? Is it Amelie? The one where she had the gnomes, then she did the pictures everywhere.
Oh, right. I do remember that one. And there was Expedia did an ad campaign with the gnomes. I think it was Expedia back in the day. And then there's also the Flat Stanley that kids will do. They take Flat Stanley around and I have done that with Barbies. I have done that with Toy Story dolls, and I have done it with Funkos. So apparently I am 12.
Well, yeah. I mean, you're doing great. You're doing great. Question: I'm afraid to take this guy out of the box. Like I feel like.
You need to take him out of the box, and you can put him back in. Just be careful how you open the box. But I mean, and you need to get a photograph of him out of the box. It's a whole new experience.
Oh, yeah. And I gotta do the unboxing probably. At some point.
And I spent some I think I really crushed the design of that one. I think I particularly nailed your hair. I really think I nailed the hair and the accessories. Mwah! It was.
This guy. It's like a new best friend.
It's just the best.
They are the best.
Aww.
They're just the best.
When you were telling me.
Don't let anybody touch it though, because my partner took mine to the Jeep. Like my Funko goes everywhere with me. Yeah. But it no longer has a microphone, and that was tough.
Oh no.
Oh no, it got lost.
The mic?
Yeah.
There he is.
So cute. Look at how cute.
Everybody.
Oh, so cute.
Everybody is witnessing the unboxing.
The unboxing
of the Avatari Funko.
Indeed.
Did we just do we have to do this all the time now? Maybe. I don't know.
Oh,
I think so.
Yeah.
Daily.
All right. Well, this episode is not brought to you by Funko. They're not sponsoring this in any way. But if you want to Funko Pop yourself, you can head on over to the Funko website, and that's where you can customize your own Funko.
Mm-hmm.
I've given them a lot of business. Business.
Yes, you have.
All right. Well, let's play this song while we get taken out of here today. Oh, Ari, it was so great to have you with us.
It was awesome being with you, and I love what you're doing, and I love being a part of it. So, I'm in heaven here.
Love it. All right, DJ, take us out. That's you, Tamar.
Staring at the screen like an idiot. Think I'll watch another video. What if I was the president? I build a wall and let you stare at it. Home playing with my joystick. You know you really wanna join me. Think I'd rather just play with myself until they drag my sick ass straight to hell. I'm dying from the inside out, crying tears of blood right now. Don't wanna kill myself. When I'm close to you I melt. 'Cause I've been treating my depression with pouring gasoline on the day that I was born. And I've been feeding my addiction with more, dreaming of the day that I could have it all. Got crippling anxiety, the narcissistic ass society. Spending all day on my mobile phone till I get kicked out of my mobile home. It's an existential crisis of potential. Who will I be and what will I do? Who will do me and who will I do? I'm dying from the inside out, crying tears of blood right now. I don't wanna kill myself. When I'm close to you I shout. 'Cause I've been treating my depression with hope. Regret the fucking day that I was ever born. And I've been feeding my addiction with more, dreaming of the day that I could have it all, that I could have it all, that I could have. Fuck yeah! 'Cause I've been treating my depression with pouring gasoline on the day that I was born. And I've been